Exclude rules from the standing committees. Again, as I have pointed out before, the Rules Committee is the most standing of standing committees because it literally has every member of the council serving on it. So it certainly is a standing committee. And I think we can resolve this conflict by, reworking the chairman's schedule. As we look through it for Rules Committee, if you just go straight down the line to avoid conflicts, currently in line is Alderman Wynne, but she's conflicted out. Alderman Braithwaite is then conflicted out. The next person in line would be Alderman Revelle, and she will soon be conflicted out as she will be chair of P&D. And then after that is myself, and I'm interested in being chair of Rules, and so I think the way that we can move forward with this easiest is just to follow the schedule, and I asked to close out this term and finish the last few weeks of Alderman Wynne's term and then begin my term. And so I make that a motion.
Councilmember Fleming.
Yeah, it seems to me the easiest thing to do is just go with the new schedule that Ms. Franchano has provided here. I don't know the history of when the confusion came, but it doesn't make sense to change a rule if we can, keep the rule as it is and kind of just change our chairmanship since they have not all started yet. I also do just want to thank Councilmember Reid. I remember he brought this up 2 or 3 times before we actually listened to him and found out that he was right. So I think this is also a good lesson for us to make sure we're listening to people when they bring items up. So I hope that we just can pass this new chairmanship schedule. Thanks, Dar, for fixing it, and then we'll move forward.
Any other discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, your light, Councilmember Braithwaite, did you have your light on?
And Dar, thank you so much for putting in the work, and I'm okay with making the exception to Rules Committee. I can't predict what the composition of our future councils will look like, but to avoid that moving forward, it just seems like a very simple fix that doesn't disrupt any of the other schedule. So I'm fine the way it is.
Councilmember Revelle.
So I guess I'm a little confused about what, maybe I need Councilmember Reid to explain again what the sequence then for rules.
Well, the sequence is as what you're looking at. That can I?
Sure.
I have you. So currently, Alderman Wynne would serve until October 2021, but there's a conflict there. Alderman Braithwaite would be next in line to serve according to this schedule here, but Alderman Braithwaite is currently chair of a standing committee of Administration and Public Works, and then you would be next in line, but then you'll be chair of P&D fairly soon, and then naturally I would be the next person in
So
line.
you're recommending moving
Just following, yeah.
moving your name up and then pushing everything.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Or
Moving my name up, serving out what would be my 2 or 3 months here, 3 months, the remainder of Alderman Wynne's couple weeks, and then continue down the line.
I'm still confused. So you would replace Alderman Wynne for the rest of her current term, and then you would be back here, except you and I are.
Councilmembers, I'm hearing discussion here from the staff. Kelly, would you like to speak to this? Ms. Gandersky.
Yes, good evening, members of City Council. Kelly Gandersky, Deputy City Manager. I'm speaking with Ms. Franchel now. I don't think that would resolve the conflicts in total, because if Councilmember Reid took over his rules, I think there will be other conflicts going forward in the schedule as well. So the memo as proposed was to do one of 2 things. One, first would be exempt rules not as a standing committee, but exempt rules from Rule 9.8, Or B, the second option would be Ms. Franchelno has to entirely redo the chair schedule for the next 4 years, which this wasn't the only conflict. So my understanding would be there would be another conflict down the road for Councilmember Braithwaite, Councilmember Suffredin, Councilmember Reid again. So it's a little bit of a logic puzzle for Ms. Franchelno to put together because of this rule, because of Rules Committee.
If,
Okay, I had Councilmember Newsma next.
I'm inclined to keep the rules as they're written and revise the schedule, have DAR do that to make sure we're in compliance with our current rules, whatever those names end up being. That's where my mind goes.
I am somewhat agnostic on this, but I do think it would be easier just to exempt the Rules Committee from this Rule 9.8. And then we continue with our seniority schedule rather than reshuffle everything. And I know we haven't begun to serve on this yet, but as we can see, we're going to continue to have a number of other conflicts. I think a simpler thing to do would be to simply exempt rules from 9.8, and then we proceed as we are doing. Councilmember Reid, and then Councilmember Newsma.
okay, so I think the real issue here isn't our rule, which says that a council member can't serve as chair of two standing committees. I think part of the issue is the way that we're determining the chair as a whole. We're using the seniority schedule, which of course is going to cause conflicts when you have all of the people who are senior at the top. It's going to create, and we have several committees, it's going to create an obvious conflict. So I think the thing we have to do is move away from in some cases, follow the seniority schedule, and where that does not work or where it's maybe not necessary, we don't have to follow the seniority schedule. I think the rules should stay the same. I think we can fix the conflict that is in existence now, and that has been in existence for months and raised. And if there are other conflicts down the road, we can certainly have DAR or someone look at those and fix those before they arise. But we have one that is clear in front of us now, and I think we should address that.
Councilmember Newsma, and Councilmember Braithwaite.
I was just going to offer as a suggestion, what if the mayor chaired the Rules Committee? The Rules Committee being kind of a special committee. Just throwing that out there.
Councilmember Braithwaite.
Thank you, Ms. And I guess, and I don't want to say this is your issue, but you're concerned about this. And I guess my question is, you've been here 4 years. You've made more referrals than anyone else sitting behind the dais. And you're very active in the debate. Help me to understand, because this is tying up staff's time, and I feel like this is the 4th or 5th meeting where this has come up. Like, if there's a way, and I think we said this before, just flip to make you chair, we would do it. But there'll be a continuous rotation of trying to reshuffle this that we're putting on the backs of staff. And I really think we have more important issues to resolve, not only this evening, but moving forward. And just for the members of the new council, there have been months where we just didn't meet for rules. Just this last 3 months have probably been the most intense reshuffling of chairs and looking at rules, which is fine. That's important. But we're going to continue to recycle inefficiency here with shuffling of chairs and burdening our staff to do this when you would only have to wait until December 22nd. And if you can help give me like a compelling reason to have to go through this shuffle every single time in the future for the next 4 years, like, help me to understand. If not, I'm so fine with moving forward with this and getting to our agenda, and then later on we still have human services. But The floor is yours to respond.
Councilmember Reid,
Ready
would
to
you like
vote.
to respond?
I have two responses. One, this isn't my issue. This isn't about me or, Rules Committee as clerk. Rules are something that I focused on. So it's something I obviously care about, and I certainly do want to serve as chair of Rules, but it's not about that. It's about we as a council adopted a rule. You voted for it. Everyone up here voted for it unanimously that a council member can't serve as chair of two committees. We, at some point, a council down the road thought that that was a wise rule to have, and we've kept that rule. And just like if a resident in our city doesn't follow a rule, they get a ticket, and they can't just say, so we should follow the rules that we set. And so that's what this is about. And I'm really glad that you said that if there was a mechanism to make me chair of rules, that you'd be glad to do it, because I will now make a motion that we revise the schedule, and that in order to resolve this apparent conflict now, which is violating the rules, that we just follow the schedule straight down, and the next person in line would be myself to serve as Rules Committee Chair, and so I make that motion.
Councilmember Braithwaite, you have your light on.
Is there a second?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a second?
Second.
Could you restate the motion?
The motion is to fix the apparent conflict in the rules chairmanship, and to go straight down the line. The next person in line that does not have a conflict would be myself. And so the motion is that I would serve as chair of Rules Committee for the remainder of this term and then start my term. Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Braithwaite, and then Councilmember Mayor Biss, and then Councilmember Newsma? No, okay, just Mayor Biss then. Okay. Go ahead, Peter. Okay. Mayor Biss?
I just want to understand the motion, council member. It seems to me that the person currently listed as following the current term is Councilmember Braithwaite. So are you suggesting, is the motion for you to, I think I heard you say two different things. One is the motion is for you to complete the current term, and one is for you to complete the current term and then occupy the subsequent term as well. If the latter is the motion, then that requires all kinds of other juggling, because that's Councilmember Braithwaite's chairmanship being bumped for something else.
There is a very simple fix to this, everyone. We just exempt the Rules Committee from Rule 9.8, and then we move through the schedule as we've done. Yes, that would then correct the rule, and we would be in compliance. I agree, we should be in compliance with our rules. Remarkably, we have gone term after term on this council out of compliance with that, and we did not notice it before. I do think that we are going to continue to have to reshuffle when all we would have to do is say that the Rules Committee is exempt from Rule 9.8, and then we all move forward with our agenda. Councilmember Burns.
I think what also was proposed is that there may be a better way to do this than to appoint chairs through seniority. That was stated. It wasn't acknowledged by anybody, but it was stated, and it makes sense. There are other ways of doing things that we should consider. But also, we should have, I think Councilman Reid has demonstrated that he is interested in being a chair of rules, and I would like to see people assigned to positions that they actually want to do, that they have a passion about. And I would much rather like to vote on the remaining term, but also happy to vote on his term continuing into the next one. And I don't think Dar can correct me if I'm wrong, it'll take some time, but it's not overly burdensome to figure this out. And the result is we have a chair that wants to do it, that is really passionate about it and wants to move things forward and has some ideas. I believe there are several referrals coming up that Councilmember Reid has coming up for Rules Committee. And I see it as a good option for us right now.
Councilmember Burns, every single member of this council is elected to serve, and all of us care deeply about the chairmanships as they come to us. And I don't think a single member of this council is indifferent to being a chair. So I believe in, and I have to say, I believe in the seniority system because it gives everyone a fair opportunity. And it takes the politicalization away from whoever is chair. And politicalization is exactly what is happening right now. So
Since you responded to me, I want to respond. So, I mean, we're all elected, right? So the politics are for the as far as this matter is concerned, the politics is over. We are all elected. And so what I'm saying is I think that he has demonstrated a certain passion and interest to be chair of the Rules Committee that I have not seen from any other member. If someone is this interested, right, in chairing the Rules Committee, then they can make that known. I have not heard it on this body. And so that's what I mean. I'm not saying people aren't here to suit up and do their job. I'm just saying he has shown a particular interest in his role. It sounds like he is next up in terms of if we look at who is conflicted out and who's not. And so not only do we follow the order, but we will have a council member that has shown a particular interest and passion in serving in this capacity right now at this moment.
Okay, Councilmember Burns, I don't think you would like it if I suggested that you were not passionate about when you're chair of a committee. Just because I don't say that I am passionate about serving as chair does not mean that I am not passionate. I take my job very seriously.
Councilman, I'm not talking about you.
Let me finish.
But I'm not talking about you.
No, you just did imply.
No, I'm not. I'm assuming that you agree that
No,
you
I
should
don't
no longer
agree.
serve at this moment if we continue
No,
going on with our
if
rules.
this is not following the rules, that's what I just said.
Right, okay, yeah, I mean,
But this is not about who's the most passionate. I'm not going to campaign to be chair when, as Councilmember Fleming said months ago, every single person who voted for us assumed that we would have an opportunity to serve equally on every committee of this council. And that is what all of us deserve to have, not to campaign to be chair. The system that we have set up is fair. Every single member of this council rotates through chairs, and that is fair. And that is what our residents voted for. That's the system that we have. That is the fair system we have. Before I became a member of this council, chairs were appointed by the mayor. The council that I started on changed that system because people did not get a fair chance to serve. We changed that system to the fair system we have now. Now, Ms. Frantelno apparently has a solution to our problem. I want to go to Ms. Frantelno.
Can I
Does she
have
have
a
a
quick
solution?
rebuttal and then just a quick rebuttal? So again, we could have made a motion. You could have made I didn't know you were still interested in serving as chair.
I've said that before.
Okay, well, you could have made a motion for us to exempt the Rules Committee from, right? You could have made that motion. So I didn't even know you were interested because that's not the motion on the
Because
table.
as chair, the chair speaks last. The chair speaks last at committees. So the chair allows any motion to come forward, and then the chair does not usually make a motion. I've been prepared. I already been suggesting that, but I'd like to hear the system that Ms. Francelno says she has.
Okay, the other option to alleviate any more conflicts through 2025 would be to continue to have Wynne as chair through October if there's going to be October Rules Committee meeting. For December 2021 through April 2022, Reid will replace Councilmember Braithwaite. Suffredin will replace Revelle, and Braithwaite will replace Reid. So it would be Wynne, Reid, Suffredin, Braithwaite, Suffredin again, Burns, Kelly, Newsma.
What about Revelle? Wait, there is a Revelle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So could you say that again? Wynne, Reid.
Reid will replace Braithwaite's slot. Okay.
Then comes
Suffredin.
Suffredin.
Oh no, that's you're right. I didn't. Yeah, and never
Okay.
forget that. I did leave you out, Councilmember Revelle. I am so sorry.
Chair.
The whole schedule would have to be
Okay.
redone.
Yes, Mr. Cummings?
So I just wanted, I know there's a motion pending on the floor. I just wanted to remind the committee that the item was noticed for discussion and that the Rules Committee voted to use seniority previously. So that being said, I don't know if it's appropriate for us to adjust the calendar right now because it was an item that was noticed for discussion. But I also wanted to point out that Councilmember, if it is based on seniority, Councilmember Suffredin should precede Reid, is my understanding in terms of seniority is concerned. So that might change some of the conflict, but I'm not 100% sure. But my point for being recognized by the chair is that it was noted for discussion and the Rules Committee voted previously to use seniority.
Okay, yes, Ms. Gandersky.
I just wanted to state whatever the council decides is fine. If it's going to require a shuffle in schedule, I just want my staff to have adequate time to make sure it's done right so that we're not just doing this ad hoc. I appreciate Ms. Franchelno's diligent efforts to keep up with the schedule, and she's done a great job. I just want to make sure she's got the time to dedicate to look this over and make sure it's done right so that we're not just doing this on the fly. I think it needs to be done right because it's been brought up a few times already.
All right, Councilmember Fleming, and then Councilmember Newsma.
Thank you, and that was actually my point, Ms. Gandersky. My memory serves me that when this was brought up the first time, we did nothing. The second time, I thought we asked for an adjusted schedule to be brought back here to look at. I'm happy to review the minutes because I'm almost positive that's what happened. Now maybe that information did not get to Ms. Franchelno, but I'm pretty sure we asked for the schedule because the reason we didn't talk about it at that time was because we did not have an adjusted schedule. So we asked for the schedule to be adjusted and brought back so that tonight we can see what the options were. So I'm not sure where the miscommunication was, but that was one of the questions I was going to ask this evening because I did not see adjusted schedule. And I'm not positive of a lot of things, but I'm pretty sure that we asked for that to be done so that tonight we could look at it. But nonetheless, since this is a discussion item, I don't know if we can entertain them. We should vote for the motion if it's there. But we do have another committee meeting and many important police matters to talk about tonight.
Yes. I believe, Councilmember Fleming, that this item was on the agenda previously, but we did not get to it because of the length of the last Rules Committee meeting that we had. Now I have Councilmember Newsma and Councilmember Braithwaite. And then I think we should bring this to a conclusion.
I'm sorry, I've had my light on quite a number of times for quite a while. But
Okay.
I think I was after Councilmember Fleming.
I will put you on the list here, Councilmember Reid. Okay.
Thank you, Chair Wynne. Not to confuse things even further, but I'd also just like to note for the record that we have a new committee, the Finance and Budget Committee, which, as we've structured it, is not a standing committee and therefore will not be subject to any kind of rules or restrictions on who can chair that. Just like to get that out there, and I know we're going to be talking about that later this evening.
Okay.
As regards to the resolution of this particular issue here, let's just get it done one way or the other. We're all going to have a chance to chair. I'm ready to vote. Maybe not on the motion. I don't want to, if the choices in front of us, I think, are to change the rules or to redo the schedule, whatever that might end up being. And I'm not prepared to vote in favor of Councilmember Reid's motion because I don't know what that schedule might be. And if we adopt the resolution as stated, there might be other unintended consequences, other dominoes down the line that would have to be readjusted. So I don't think we should be voting on an actual schedule tonight, just on how to resolve this problem.
Well,
thanks.
But if we resolve it by having to readjust it, then that's a natural, that will flow out of that.
Whatever flows out of that, flows out of that.
Okay, so, all right, I understand that. Councilmember Reid.
Yes, again, I think we're all making this far more complicated than it has to be. I think we can solve the conflict that is in front of us now. We know that a rule is being violated. We can stop violating that rule now, and we can have a schedule. If we need a schedule brought back at some point, we can do that there, but we can fix the conflict that exists now. Mayor Biss, I was going to call you Mayor Braithwaite. Mayor Biss, you brought up a point about, if we were to go straight down the line, would I be bumping Alderman Braithwaite's term if I were to finish out this term and then commence mine? We actually wouldn't, because if you look down at the Human Services Committee, as it's in our memo, Alderman Braithwaite would be the chair of Human Services during that period.
Then it should be Alderman Revelle then after that.
So, thank you. If I can not be interrupted. There wouldn't be a conflict. So we wouldn't be, we would continue, we'd eliminate the conflict currently. We can go back and review it further, and Dar can do that. But the real thing is seniority. And to claim that the seniority system that we use now is fair, I don't know by whose standards, but I can point to someone who I view as a personal hero of mine, Alderman Edwin Jourdain, who, when he was elected in 1931, one of the first things that the first black alderman and the first woman alderman in our city did was fight against the practice of seniority. Alderman Jourdain gave a very impassioned statement from this dais at some other building at the time, and said that we need to end that practice because it entrenches the status quo, and it negates the effects of elections. I mean, of course this is political. We are elected officials. We hold political office. And there are consequences to elections. And new people were elected here, and I think what is fair is that we all get a chance to serve at an appropriate time, and it doesn't have to be determined by seniority. So I would hope that we can, not be political in this moment and move forward with fixing the issue that we know is at hand and that has been raised. I've raised this since I think the first or second meeting that we've had. It's been the entire summer. And we've continuously had meetings where we acted as if we weren't violating the rules. And to now say that, we're not prepared or there wasn't, it's been months. So let's fix this tonight.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes, I want to echo, there are inherent issues with using seniority, and I think the rule is an attempt to address that. So I would ask that we not change the rules now or modify it in order to, the inherent issues with seniority is the inadvertent, completely inadvertent, unwilling, but not meaning to monopolize the politics of a city government. So I think that's why we have that rule. So I'd ask that we follow our rule. Thank you. And I'm sorry, but the rule regarding the number of committees that someone can serve on, since we do have this, the seniority in place, which again has those issues, I believe our rule is there to address the issues that come with setting in place seniority as a system.
All right, so I am completely agnostic on this. I would just like us to resolve this. I don't want to be in violation. I do care very deeply about serving as chair. I do think there is an advantage, especially with the new city council, of having seniority. Seniority in the sense that we have it on this council is different than perhaps it was with Alderman Jourdain. Seniority used to rule the Senate, where you never had anyone rotate off the chairmanship. That's not what we do. We assign the initial roll call by seniority, and then we do rotate. So we are not a true pure seniority system. That's just how we start the list. And I would not support a system of seniority, and I did not support a system where the mayor appointed permanent chairs to every committee. And that was the system that existed before 1997. So we changed that system. I am happy to adhere to the rule and stop being chair of the Rules Committee tonight and have it roll over just as Dar has told us that it will. But I do not believe we should move off the system that we have. So whoever it rolls to next, that's fine, let it roll. Councilmember Kelly, did you
Yeah.
turn your light back on?
I did, I just want to say, yeah, no, I agree. I think there's obvious value in seniority. So I'm just saying, the system that I'm saying, we have a checks and balances though in place, I think with the rule, to ensure that it's appropriately used. And so I agree. I think there's absolute value in seniority.
Thank you. So there is a motion on the floor to make Councilmember Reid.
If I can clarify the motion, the motion is to do what you actually just stated, which was to follow the roll. And if we followed Dar's original proposal as it was set, and we went straight down the line from yourself, Alderman Braithwaite, Alderman Revelle, the next person in line who is not conflicted at this moment would be myself. And so the motion is to do what Alderman Braithwaite said he agreed, and what you said that you agreed, which is to fix the conflict and to do it.
If I could just have a point of information, I want to make sure that.
I don't understand how it's you,
what I said
not
to
Alderman
you-
Suffredin, because he's not chairing.
So Alderman Suffredin was the chair of rules directly preceding this the new council coming on. So he was the chair preceding yourself.
But he's next in line.
No, hold on. As it was listed, Alderman Fleming was actually next in line, and
Okay.
Alderman Fleming agreed to swap with me, and we voted on that. And so that put me next in line.
Because I was having another conflict with another committee.
I understand. Now my memory is refreshed. Councilmember Braithwaite?
I just want to make my comments clear. We've wasted, and this is your argument, no one else's. We've
No, it's
wasted.
all of ours. We voted for it.
Pardon me. The
No,
point that I want to
Councilman.
make is that I said if you could be, and it wouldn't impact, because what's going to happen now, since we've continued to do this over 4 meetings without any process, and keep in mind, we've already made over 75% of changes to our rules. So this to me is no different than any of the arguments that we've had that drones on to all hours of the night. The point that I wanted to make is if it didn't impact, if we didn't have to come back to this point over and over and over again over the next 4 years. So by removing it, we're good. We're good. And then we just follow the natural progression. And I guess I would just appeal to my colleagues that we're supposed to start human services in 20 minutes, and it's conversations like these, I have to be honest, it does cause a little frustration because we haven't even addressed 1, 2, 3, 4 other items in front of us. But I'm ready to vote.
All right. I have lost track of who had their light on. Someone over here. Mayor Biss. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I do not want to wade into the argument here. I just want to understand what we would be voting on. So as I understand it, Councilmember, your motion is to make yourself the chair of rules effective, I guess, at the end of this meeting, through the end of what's currently on our grid as Councilmember Wynne's term, and then also taking what's listed on our grid as Councilmember Braithwaite's term. So my question is, does your motion include a reshuffling for the rest of the terms, or does it just leave that sort of loose and open and for us to resolve some other time?
Well, so what we understand is that there's a conflict that exists now, and so we can fix the conflict that exists now and has existed for months and has been raised for months with no solution. And if we were, and we can fix any other conflict that exists. I mean, if I look through this, and if you take a second look through it, the conflicts exist throughout this. So no matter what, if we keep the rule, which I think we should, and I think it seems as though the majority of folks believe we should keep that rule, that the conflict will continue to exist. We have to reshuffle. So I guess to clarify, it is to make the fix now, that with the apparent conflict, and then if we do whatever we need to fix down the road, it'll need to be fixed anyhow. We can do that, but let's fix the conflict that exists now.
So the motion is to make you chair of rules through April 2022 and change nothing else, correct?
No, it would be make him the chair for October, and then we would have Ms. Franciano fix everything
Well,
else.
this is why I'm asking.
You're exactly correct.
He's exactly correct.
Well, how about if the guy who made the motion tells us who's correct, because this is his motion?
Because that would be extraordinary that you would have that much time on as chair of the rules.
Well, the way it would work is that, I'm unclear. Is this set as if the committee only meets every other month? Is that the
Well, we
assumption?
meet as, this is what they were saying earlier, so we can meet monthly, we usually don't meet monthly.
Right. But
We usually
normally-
meet as things come up and we need to meet.
Right. And sometimes we don't meet for several months, but we did decide,
Meet as needed.
yes, we meet as needed, but then we decided we would meet every 2 months.
So, the motion would be that,
Are you
No.
changing the motion now?
We've already motioned and seconded, so we have to vote on that, don't we, before we do changes, or no?
Or he can withdraw the motion.
Or you withdraw the
I
motion?
could withdraw. The motion was to serve the remainder of this term, which would be potentially 1 meeting or 0 meetings, and then, yes, serve what would be the natural rotation of,
The next term,
Yeah.
which goes from,
December
which would
through
go until
April.
Yeah, but that messes that we still haven't fixed the problem.
No.
So if we're gonna fix the problem of tonight, that you serve until, this is my
Council.
opinion, you serve until October, and then Dar fixes the whole thing.
I
But
think
it hasn't been
that's,
fixed the first time, Peter, so yes, it fixes the whole thing, so that there's no conflicts later, and then at our next meeting, we vote for the whole new schedule.
I think that's the best idea at this point.
That fixes the
It's not-
conflict for
I
tonight.
think that's the idea we're gonna land on. It's not what I consider best, but that is, I think, the idea
Well, we
that,
can't piecemeal it again, we'll be here,
no, let's,
we'll be here forever.
Councilmember Reid, would you withdraw your motion and allow Councilmember Fleming to make her motion so that we can, fix the problem?
I'm happy to amend my motion.
Okay.
Yeah. And so,
If you would like to amend your motion in line with what Councilmember Fleming just said, and then we will have the problem fixed.
so moved.
I think it has to be stated, doesn't it?
So
Yes. Council,
I was going to say the motion needs to be stated. I was going to ask for clarification of whether he was actually withdrawing it because I didn't hear him mention it about withdrawing it. But this item, again, was for discussion. If the committee wants to give direction for the schedule to be amended so that all of the conflicts are resolved, which I don't know that they can be because there are different members of city council on different committees. And some of you are on every committee, and some of you are on 1 or 2 committees. So there are going to be conflicts likely to come up regardless. But that should be, if that's the direction of the committee, because this item was for discussion, then let that be the direction of the committee so it can be done. But if Councilmember Reid's motion is still on, he wants to amend it, that's fine. Again, this item was for discussion and that the Rules Committee has already voted to use seniority as its guide, and that a motion for reconsideration of that would be completely out of order.
It's,
so I think if we could direct staff to do as Councilmember Fleming just suggested, which I believe Councilmember Reid, you agree with, can we do that? Can we just do that right now?
if I can.
That would be done that could be fine if its motion is not still valid. I think his motion's still on the floor. That's why I'm trying to get clarification.
So Councilmember Reid, if you would withdraw your motion, then we could direct staff to do what you and Councilmember Fleming are suggesting.
Just point of information, who determines committee agendas?
What do you mean?
Who determines whether an item is for action, for discussion? Who has that power for our committees?
City Council rules state that the standing chair works with staff to set the agenda for committee meetings.
So the chair decided to put this for discussion when it's very clear that this has been an issue the entire summer that has been raised, and it's convenient that this is for discussion and not for action. So then we have another meeting where we're not in compliance with the rules, and we're not solving this issue. And so I think that this is something that needs to be addressed this evening. I don't think it would be a violation for us to make that adjustment to our committee schedule. It certainly isn't a reconsideration of seniority. It's just changing the committee's chair schedule.
Councilmember Reid, this item, I'm sorry, what did you say, Councilmember Burns? Oh, I didn't see it. I apologize. Okay. Oh, I apologize. Go right ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that this is really not controversial. It's only somewhat controversial if there's an appetite to exempt the Rules Committee from the whatever the number of the rule is. And so, but other than that, it's not really controversial. Like, I don't think even Councilmember Suffredin, nor even Alderman Braithwaite really are interested that deeply in being chair of the Rules Committee right now. And so I don't see why we can't vote on this, put Councilmember Reid in place, and then go back in between this meeting and the next one and do the necessary reshuffling. Like, we're making it more controversial than it is, unless we want to amend the rules to allow or exempt the Rules Committee from the rule, and then have Councilmember Wynne continue to operate as chair. And if there's an appetite for it, which I don't think there's votes to amend to exempt Rules Committee, then it's not controversial. Like, let's just put somebody in place who is next in line, and then we can figure out the rest in between this meeting and the next one.
Well,
now, if we can do that, I know this is for discussion. I would like for it also to be for action. Again, we have been operating outside of our rules now for way longer than what is required.
well, can I just address that? By my count, we have had, as a Rules Committee, almost 15 hours of discussion. It might be more than that. Actually, it might be 18. Part of the reason why we haven't gotten to this is because we have had so much discussion, valuable, on so many other rules. And at some point, we are no longer effective as a committee. I am not interested in breaking the rules of the City Council. I do want to bring up one other point. By exempting the Rules Committee from this rule, it allows every single member of this council to have an equal opportunity to serve as chair of rules. What I think might happen, and I don't know this for sure, is that if we continue with this as rules, that there may be a conflict somewhere down the road where someone will not have the opportunity to get 2 terms as chair of every standing committee they serve on and 2 terms as chair of the Rules Committee. That's the fair system that we have in place. So I'm concerned that we will end up having a conflict that results in someone not actually having their fair share of 2 terms as chair of each standing committee they serve on and 2 terms as chair of the rules. So there is a motion on the floor, and I think we need to vote on it.
Just point of information, just to ensure that the record is correct. Members don't serve as chair of rules two times. Every member serves as chair of rules once.
Okay, I'm corrected then.
And again, the proposal that I put forward doesn't change that.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. It's to make Councilmember Reid chair and then come back after that. Is that correct? To readjust? I can't hear you.
So to make Councilmember Reid chair for the balance of the current term and the subsequent term ending in April of 2022, and to resolve everything else
After
some
that.
other time.
Okay. All right, Ms. Francelno, would you call the roll? Wait.
No, one term.
Chair until October or chair until April? Those are very different things.
To clarify, it would be to serve a term. It would be to just begin the term, not to, if we need to adjust it, to just begin what would be my natural term. So we can correct the schedule. It would be finishing the remainder of this and just serving what would be a natural 3, however long this term would be.
So if I can make a suggestion,
But
Chairman.
yes, please.
So to Councilmember Reid's most recent point, it's usually assumed that there's only going to be 3 Rules Committee meetings in a term. In this particular term, we've already, I believe this is our fourth, if not our fifth Rules Committee.
I think it's our.
So if the chair schedule for the Rules Committee was amended to just be the number of meetings as opposed to the months, it might resolve some of the conflicts in terms of the rotation. And then that way he could be chair in October or something of that nature. But the issue is still going to come up again, and it really needs to be either it's till October and we come back with a new schedule, or it's till April and he's the longest serving Rules Committee chair in the history of the Rules Committee, and then we come back with another schedule as well. One or the other.
I don't know if that statement was correct, but
Well, okay. All right.
I don't know the motion.
I think I think we do not understand what your motion is, so I'm not sure how we can vote on it. It's void for vagueness as far as I can understand. I don't understand what you have to spell it out in the months.
okay, so it seems as though every member of the council serves about, if it's 3 months and we're assuming there's a meeting every other month, it seems as though folks serve for about 6 months. I am asking to commence a 6-month term now, which would be a natural term,
In October.
starting at whatever the next meeting, whether it's October or if it's in 2 days or
Okay.
whatever it is, starting at the next meeting, yes.
Okay. All right. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Okay. And then we still have to resolve.
We still have to do the rest of the schedule.
And I'll amend my motion, friendly amendment, if there's no objections, to also, to make the resolution and then to have city staff come back with a completed schedule, that is conflict-free.
Okay. Right.
Yes,
So
it has
is
to happen.
would the seconder please resecond that?
Second.
Okay. All right, Ms. Francelno, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
Councilmember Braithwaite?
No.
Councilmember Wynne?
No.
Councilmember Nusma?
No.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember, Suffredin, Councilmember Revelle?
Aye.
Councilmember Reid?
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming?
Aye.
Mayor Biss?
No.
Okay.
So we have 4 noes, 1, 2, 3,
And 5 yeses.
4, yeah.
Okay, by a vote of 5 to 4, the motion carries. All right.